So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a sort of throwaway Rails application that I will, just for testing purposes, I'll use Rails. So I'll get Rails to generate a new app for me. Rails new GitHub test. So I'll get a GitHub test folder in the folder that I'm already in. So I'll have to navigate to that folder in order to do any work with GitHub or with Git. And there's also like a distinction that all of you need to make between sort of what is Git and what is GitHub. And so we can do Git on its own. It's just a version control tool, and we can do all of that versioning on our own machine without involving GitHub if we choose to do so. If we want to have our project up on the internet, to have it mirrored to another location, that's where GitHub comes in. And typically we do that to share our code with others or even to collaborate with others online. So Git is just sort of a command line tool that I can run from my command prompt. I can go to the Git folder. I can say I want my folder to be Git enabled. So I could do a Git init, and then the path to what you want to initialize, in this case, is just the local directory, so it's the dot. That initializes this as a Git repository. So if I type git status, it'll tell me, okay, there's a bunch of files that Git has detected aren't currently under control. There'll be basically everything in this folder. And then now there's this two-step process. Git will notice additional files, new files, files that have been removed, and changes to files. And there's a process of first staging those new files or those changes and then committing them. So to stage them, I use the add command, and I could add files one by one. So if I do a status now, it's like a new file ready to be committed. And we might do this, the reason there is a two-step process is we might do this and we might stage only 3 files and commit them because all of the changes or additions to those files are related, so we could have one commit message, and then we might stage other files, or sometimes we just want to stage everything. So if I want to stage everything, I just do a git add dot, and then a git status will show me that I've staged all of my files. And then the commit is the actual snapshot. Take a snapshot of my code base as it exists right here, record any changes that have been made to it, and give them a log message. So the -m specifies that I'm about to, in quotes, provide a log message. And I'll just say initial commit of a new Rails 4.1.6 project. Still, this is only on my local machine. And so I could open up one of the files within that folder. Let's say the README file. I could remove what was in there by default. This is now a customized README, one word. At my command prompt, changes will have been detected. So it's detected a change to that file. I can stage it. I can commit it. The generated README doc. And again, if I do a git status now, nothing to report. Nothing to commit. The working directory is clean. There's nothing staged, nothing changed. Still not attached to GitHub though. So to do that attachment process, I go to my GitHub account and I say create new repository. GitHub Demo, this is what I built earlier on. If we have spaces in the name of a repository, they just get automatically converted into dashes for us. Optional description. Public versus private, you have to pay to be able to create private repositories, so by default everything you create will be public, open to anyone on the internet. And we don't select this. This would give us a repository that actually started with some contents, but we have our own repository that we want to link to, so we just say create. And then we're going to follow the instructions for pushing an existing repository, which is setting up a remote. And then before I do that, there's two types of remotes. There's HTTP remotes and SSH remotes. By default, you will only be configured to do HTTP ones, which I can do. So I'll set that remote. And now if I do a git push -u origin master, that's saying I want to take all of the snapshots, any commits I've made over time to my project, and push them to a remote version of this project, a remote mirror. The -u is going to remember these two parameters so that next time I just have to type git push and I don't have to specify. Origin is the name of the remote that I just added, and master is the name of the branch that I'm on, my master branch, on branch master. So I want to push to origin my master, and now it's going to ask me for my GitHub username and my GitHub password. I have to go fetch my password from my password vault because I don't have it memorized. And if I paste that in here, synchronized. If it gets annoying always inputting a username and password, then I would recommend setting up public-private pair encryption. And to do that, you just are going to want to go to your settings, and there's a section called SSH keys, and you have to set an SSH key for one of your machines that you're on, and you also have to follow the instructions here for generating keys. And so there's different instructions for generating keys for Mac, Windows, Linux, and all this means is that you end up having a file on your computer that authenticates you instead of providing a username and password, and you've sort of linked that up with the GitHub account. The only thing different in setting things up is you would have added instead of the HTTPS remote, you would have added the SSH remote, and then you wouldn't have been asked for a username and password when it came time to do your push. And now changes can still be synchronized, so I make another change to my README file. That's detected locally. I can add it, I can commit it. And I can push it. And the pushes are going to involve, again, my username, my password, and if I go back to the repository that I had been working with, which was on my StungEye account, it now has 3 commits, including the most recent one. So that's the setup for Git, and the workflow is always the same. You can do as many add and commits as you want locally, and then when you're ready to, like even if you don't have an internet connection, you can sit and modify a project, add and commit locally, and then when you get back to having an internet connection, you can do the pushes then. You can have as many commits queued up as need be. That's all I have to say about that.